it worked, and it's continued to work. And the fact that when I stop taking it, it goes back, that tells me that I need to keep taking it and will continue to take it. I'd far rather do that than have an operation or a steroid injection or anything else.
Hi, this is Steve from C60 and oliveoil.com. We're here with Carol, who suffers from trigger finger, talking about her experience of taking C60 from C60 and oliveoil.com. So Carol, how long have you suffered with trigger finger?
Really difficult to say. It comes on really slowly. So at first I probably didn't actually notice it, but then it got to a point where I was noticing it more. So I would say about a year, maybe a little longer.
And which fingers suffer from trigger finger?
It's on both hands, and it's the middle finger of both hands. Left hand is slightly less severe than the right. The right has always been much more severe.
And what happens when you get trigger finger?
So basically what happens is, if you clench your fist, then go to unclench your fist, all the other fingers unclench and go straight, and the middle finger on both hands didn't. So they'd almost lock into position. Sometimes with a bit of effort and a bit of straining, I could unclench them. Other times I would manually have to straighten the finger with my other hand.
When we spoke before the interview, you said that it didn't really affect you, but it was on things like, I know you do a lot of scuba diving, it was things like taking on and off your wetsuit.
That was when I really noticed it. And that was when I noticed that it was the C60 that was having the effect, because I'd been taking the C60 since about May, and then forgot to take the C60 when I went on holiday the last 2 weeks in July. Taking a wetsuit on and off, you're forever clenching your fists quite strenuously, and within a few days, literally a few days, I was finding pulling a wetsuit on and off, my fingers were locking on both hands. It's not painful as such, but it's really awkward, and it's just quite unnerving.
And after stopping taking it and then starting again, how long after starting again did you notice that the trigger finger was disappearing?
I started taking it as soon as I got back off the holiday, so I'd been not taking it for about 2 weeks. Started taking it again, and probably within a few days, maybe a week, it was back to a point where my finger was straightening much more easily. I wasn't getting it locking as much.
And what dose were you taking to see this sort of effect?
So I started off taking quite a high dose as instructed, but then as soon as I'd done that, I went on to 1 teaspoon a day.
So I think we talked about taking the high dose, so you were on 20 mils, then 15, then 10, then...
That's right, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after you'd come back from holiday,
Yeah.
were you still on that high dose?
No. I even before I went on the holiday, I was on a teaspoon a day. I came back off the holiday. I did think about going back onto a higher dose, because obviously I'd seen it change, and I thought, no, I'll stick with a teaspoon and see what happens. If it doesn't help it, I'll go back onto the higher dose. Teaspoon a day did the job.
Excellent. Have you noticed any other changes from taking C60?
No, that's been the only one that I've really noticed.
But that has had a beneficial effect.
It's definitely had a beneficial effect, particularly because it's not just been the wetsuit, it's day-to-day living. So I'd never realised how often during the course of a day you clench your fists, but you do, and having it lock. What I was also noticing was at night I would wake up in the morning and my fists were clenched and my fingers were locked. Sometimes, a couple of times, I've woken up in the night with my fingers locked, and actually had to unlock them, so prise them open, prise them straight before going back to sleep.
You said it was quite a funny sensation unlocking them?
It's the weirdest sensation, knowing that a part of your body which you've been able to open and close for all your life suddenly doesn't do what you want it to do. That's weird. And then having to physically straighten your finger. I was just worried I was going to break something. I didn't, obviously. But it was that horrible feeling, what am I doing? Is this serious? Am I going to snap something?
And before you'd started taking the C60, had you considered any other treatments like steroid injections or operations?
I'd looked it up. I'd done the usual Google search to see what was causing it. And yes, there were, I found things like steroid injections. I'd found that there could be an operation. I didn't want either of them, to be completely honest. I thought if it ever got to a point where it was stopping me day-to-day living, then I would think about it. But up to that point, it was just uncomfortable and unnerving. So no.
So, are you happy to continue taking C60 for your trigger finger?
Yes, absolutely. The fact that it's made a difference, the fact that it's easy to take, the fact that I'm not having an operation, I'm not having steroid injections, frankly, to get the benefit that I've had. And particularly as we headed into the cold weather, bear in mind, I was taking it through the summer, and I was worried that come the winter, it was going to get worse. And we've now hit the winter. We've had cold days. Even now, I do test it. So on a cold day, I'll clench my fists really, really hard just to see whether or not it locks. And it doesn't. Occasionally it will, but it is very, very occasionally. But otherwise, no.
Okay. And before we had the interview, I let you try some of the other oils that you hadn't tried before. So you'd been taking, I think, avocado and olive oil?
Yep, started off with the olive. Not a great lover of taking olive oil, not a great lover of taking oil, but didn't like the flavour of the olive oil. It was a bit too peppery. So I was offered avocado. That was nicer, creamier, smoother. So that was definitely better than the olive. I've now tried the black seed, better but still a bit peppery. I've tried
hemp.
Hemp was, I thought it was a bit grassy, sort of fresher, grassier, earthier. Coconut was by far and away my favourite. Didn't really have a coconut flavour, but more of a kind of milky flavour. And then the last one was
pumpkin.
Yeah, not that keen. It was okay, but nothing special.
Okay, so the ones that we currently have available are the avocado, the olive oil, and the hemp. But soon we'll have the coconut, and we'll possibly be looking at the black seed and the pumpkin as well. So, on the whole, would you recommend people to try C60 for trigger finger?
I would definitely give it a go. No guarantees it's going to work. It worked for me, but I would certainly give it a go. The one thing I would say is persevere, because I didn't notice it at first. When I first started taking C60, my trigger finger was something I hoped it would improve. And I have to say, the first couple of weeks, nothing happened, and I was a little bit despondent. But I persevered. I thought, well, it's not doing me any harm, so I kept going, and it worked, and it's continued to work. And the fact that when I stop taking it, it goes back, that tells me that I need to keep taking it and will continue to take it. I'd far rather do that than have an operation or a steroid injection or anything else.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Carol.
My pleasure.